I know. You never thought this could happen to you, but here I am. Yeah, Danish scientists have discovered a patch of 66-million-year-old vomit that's being hailed as a national treasure. Well, that beats us. In America, all we had was an 81-year-old piece of crap in the White House. Ooh. The View shared a clip of border czar Tom Homan warning, quote, "If you're in the country illegally, you're on the table," causing Joy Behar to immediately ask for a napkin and some silverware. She's a cannibal. Also on The View, Sarah Haynes says that her co-hosts are out of touch with Americans because none voted for Trump. But they're also out of touch because no one will touch them. Lay's just issued a recall on some of their potato chips that, if consumed, could result in death. Well, that's a risk I'm willing to take, said one man. Chris Christie is so happy that this guy's back. RFK's cousin, Caroline Kennedy, attacked him as being unqualified to become HHS secretary. Sheesh. The way she's reacting, you'd think her uncle drowned his secretary. It makes you think, though, right? Donald Trump says he's using his emergency powers to increase water flow to California. And water is so plentiful in LA now, they actually had to move Tom Cruise to higher ground. LA Mayor Karen Bass says Pacific Palisades will be rebuilt by an outside consultant. I think we have a picture. CNN's Brian Stelter reviewed Caroline Leavitt's first White House press briefing and called it theater. And he knows theater. In the musical Oklahoma, he played Oklahoma. President Trump ordered a freeze on federal grants and loans. Meanwhile, we're still trying to figure out who ordered the freeze on Mitch McConnell. It's funny. And finally, a new study says that dads could get postpartum depression, too. Not if you nail the nanny, said one man. Hey. Not bad. Okay, let's do this. Settle down, kids. So why is it that the source of many of our country's problems can be traced to innocuous phrases? Like when a doctor says it's a simple procedure and 2 minutes later he's got his fist up my butt. It's how liberals work. They give things titles and names that sound so benign. Things like gender-affirming care, undocumented immigrants, or pregnant people. But add to that NGOs. It stands for non-governmental organization. Something non-government? How could that be bad? True, it sounds safe, even boring. I hear non-governmental organization and I'm like, see you later. I'm off to one of my slaughterhouses to butcher an unprofitable racehorse. Wow.
That one landed.
This is a tough crowd. Not laughing about butchered horses. See, I actually thought NGOs were charities, like the ones I support for homeless runway models.
What's it called?
I don't know. But NGOs are not charities, far from it. Many powerful NGOs have fueled America's illegal crisis by subverting the laws, by actively transporting migrants into the country, moving them from one city to the next to avoid detection, and basically throwing your money around like Hunter in the champagne room at the Rub and Tug Lounge. They provide transportation to get illegals to our border with shelter and services along the way, and legal services to circumvent our immigration laws once they arrive. Now, you must have wondered as you watched the migrants streaming across the border, how did they even get to that point? Who was aiding and supplying them? Those migrants, they didn't appear hungry or desperate. They were mostly well-fed dudes in decent clothes with backpacks and cell phones. They were better off than my riders. True, one of them has scurvy, But, you know, I tell him he's got a pirate's tan. So who was behind this? Well, as it turns out, you and I are, without our knowledge. Yeah, you assumed NGOs didn't have their fingers in your wallet when in reality, they're pickpocketing you like an illegal on the A train. And they profit from doing things that were considered illegal for Uncle Sam to do himself. And they receive a bulk of their funding from us. But under Trump, as always, we learn about the stuff that's been made deliberately complicated so we don't learn about it. Last week, he signed an executive order suspending refugee admissions into the U.S., and soon after that, the State Department issued a freeze on foreign aid. And that freeze included a stop work order to their NGO partner refugee groups, effectively halting their funding. And perhaps the biggest scam since I sold all that counterfeit Propecia to Jesse. But now these groups are furious because for years under Biden's State Department, they've been using your money to help the migrant train from South America to your town. Now, I don't blame them for being pissed. Human trafficking just got a lot less profitable. But it's crazy. We go to work and the government uses our taxes to help criminals break our laws. And when Trump decides to solve the problem, out comes Hitler.
The fear and the panic and the division is, I think, something that we should all be concerned about.
When you start having Gestapo raids in America.
If that sounds vaguely familiar, that's because it is. Similarities to what happened in Germany.
You know what else is similar to what happened in Germany? Everything. Everything you can compare. Except I don't remember people sneaking into Nazi Germany, then pushing people off subway platforms and getting free hotels. But then again, I slept through college. Speaking of violent crime, watch what Stephen Miller does to Jake Tapper.
The Department of Agriculture says that between 2020 and 2022, 42% of crop workers were undocumented immigrants. And in many cases, as you know, these migrants do jobs many Americans do not want to do.
I'm sure it's not your position, Jake, you're just asking the question, that we should supply America's food with exploitative illegal alien labor. I obviously don't think that's what you're implying. Only 1% of alien workers in the entire country work in agriculture. The illegal aliens that Joe Biden brought into our country are not full stop doing farm work. They are not. The illegal aliens he brought in from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, they are not doing farm work. They're in our cities collecting welfare.
Nice. And so Tapper believes illegals do what Americans don't want to do. But sorry, Jake, even they won't watch CNN. But as always, you also have the grandstanding political hacks going against what America wants. Here's Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry.
I want to speak directly to people who are undocumented. We love you. We will stand up for you, and we will do anything in our power to help. Because you're not an alien in our city, you're a neighbor. Our police officers will not be cooperating with federal law enforcement around federal immigration law. We enforce state and local laws here. As for cooperation with ICE, the answer is no.
Man, we have to stop electing theater kids to government. That guy should be hosting Blue's Clues. So now, whether this funding freeze works or not, at least America is finally seeing the grift at work. Trump does it again. He pulls that curtain back, and now you start to understand how we got to this place. And it's so ugly, you'd think you're watching The View. Let's welcome tonight's guest, pump up this audience. His act puts more people to sleep than Bill Cosby. Actor, writer, comedian Jamie Lissow. He once checked my prostate over Zoom. Host of Ask Dr. Drew on Rumble, Dr. Drew Pinsky. At the gym, she does Atlas Shrugs. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor, and he went from cracking skulls to splitting sides. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA world champion. Jamie, good to see you wore a T-shirt tonight. Good to see you. Didn't expect to see it, but I'm glad you wore it. Did you know what an NGO was before tonight? I thought it was like something like the Peace Corps.
I'm familiar with it from the middle of the bingo song.
Yeah. Nice.
What I did not know what it was, and then I watched that. I still kind of don't. How about the Trump is doing what he said he was going to do, which I like to see, right? Like he's doing what he said he was going to do, and I think that's commendable. You don't see that from politicians ever. I never saw that from my ex-wife. I remember this one time she goes, "Till death do us part." And then, but it is a confusing, I get that it's a touchy subject. I don't know if you know this about me, but I actually dated an illegal immigrant for help as she was my girlfriend. And every time we would do something intimate in bed, I was like, again, she's doing jobs American women don't want to do.
Terrible, terrible, Dr. Drew. You and I both, our eyes met almost romantically when Jacob Fry said he wouldn't cooperate.
Yeah, to me, it seemed like, isn't that breaking federal law? And isn't he going to end up in jail? Fine, he doesn't want his local officers participating, but he is defying federal law, which is the law of the land.
Also, people want it. The people voted for this, you douchebag, not you.
This is the part that drives me crazy. And I don't get it. How does the press still not understand the difference between somebody who's here illegally, undocumented illegally, and somebody who went through the process? I'm from an immigrant family. It took forever. And they were escaping desperate circumstances, and still you had to pay.
Were they from Chicago?
They ended up in Chicago, interestingly enough, and so from bad to worse. But the point is that what do they think? That when they say America's built on immigrants, who went through this incredible procedure, had to prove what they had to offer the country, how they were going to make money, what they were going to do when they got here, and then live up to that.
I think it's insulting the way they use the word asylum and all these asylum laws and rules, and how they're just, people get asylum, and then they go back and they visit the place they're claiming asylum from. That doesn't work. No one was going back to Nazi Germany to check on their plants.
No.
Cats. Were you following this NGO phenomenon? I was worried about doing this story because I was like going, do people know enough to care? But then you find out, like, we used to watch this and go like, how did all these people get here? They didn't walk 1,000 miles. Now we know.
The story is very confusing. I mean, it's convoluted, and I also know that my brain's not operating at its highest capacity in my current state, so it could be that. But one thing that I had the biggest, and it's not just immigration stuff, it's a few different kind of NGOs, foreign aid, all these different things. And I'm just really confused. Maybe you guys can help, because they're called NGOs, who stand for non-governmental organizations. So why are they called that if now, when they're saying that Trump briefly freezing funding they're not gonna make it?
Exactly.
How do they get to be called that if even a freeze in government funding means like, well, we're gonna have to shut our doors? What have you done? Why are you called that then?
Yes, because
am I missing something, or does that not make sense?
NGO is a fancy way of saying leech. They're just, they attach to the government and they just suck the blood. But it's our blood, Kat.
But it's almost like the person who's like, well, I wasn't doing exactly what they were doing.
It reminds me how they got around gain of function.
Yes.
Have somebody else do it. We'll call it Wuhan. We'll call it Peter Daszak's lab in North Carolina. We'll call it an NGO.
Yeah, I don't know, Tyrus. Are you familiar with this whole phenomenon?
Yeah, but where I'm coming from, it was called a front.
Yeah.
You call it an NGO. You have a very successful bodega that never has food in it, and routine stops every 3 or 4 weeks by certain guys with a Colombian accent. Chances are it might be a front. This is a front, and they can put anyone they want in that position. This is how the little Bidens reward. This is how you get your information. You pay that $10,000 dinner or whatever it was, or give him his little diamond ring in China, and then your buddies get a us over, even though it doesn't sound like that, but that's exactly what it is. And you get a little program where you go out and help young military-age men find their way and their their place by placing them on buses at midnight and rushing and then dropping them off just in time for the cameras at CNN to go, oh, they've walked 10,000 miles to be here.
Yes.
In white shoes.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And everyone's got a good meal and they're on the phone like, yeah, I just got here. Where you at? The English is better than ours. Yeah. So it's just a front. And what it is he's coming in this situation. He doesn't have to run for re-election. He doesn't need the money. They have no influence on him, so he's starting to hit him at the roots. And you're going to see the dirtiest, most corrupt politicians fight this ferociously. And they're saying the Hitler stuff, but it's not working because you've said Hitler so much that it doesn't mean anything anymore, which is a shame because that's a word you should always be worried about.
Exactly.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.